Hi, everybody, and welcome to a special one-on-one edition of Newsmakers. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Tuesday, January 7th, and we're honored and delighted to be joined by Representative Salud Carbajal, who is speaking to us from deep inside a snow bunker in Washington, D.C. Representative Carbajal, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Jerry.
How were you able to make your way to the Capitol this morning? Did you have a snow machine preceding you, or how'd you get in there?
I I worked my way in walking. It was a little treacherous, with a lot of snow. And since this is the second day after the snow, there's a lot of ice. So you have to be very careful that you don't slip on the ice. So it was quite the challenge coming in. Us Californians are not used to this type of weather, but I managed to get here.
Yeah, well, this is why I moved to California 50 years ago. Salute. So, all right, let me start with this. Yesterday, January 6th, the day that will live in infamy, you and the other members of the U.S. Congress certified the electoral votes for incoming President Trump. What was that like to sit there and watch Kamala Harris have to kind of oversee that?
Well, first, it was again important to participate in the peaceful transition of government and lead by example, showing that even when we don't like the outcome, uh, making sure that democracy works and democracy is upheld is important. And it was depressing going through the motions, the procedure to certify the votes for an individual that won that I certainly was not supportive of. And but it was heartening to see that Vice President Kamala Harris, who presided over this process, did what she had to do, what her responsibility was, despite losing. And I think it showed a clear contrast with those who believe in our institutions, our democracy, and our heritage of democracy, and those that don't, that supported the insurrection, the non-certification of the election last time, from President Trump to all of those colleagues of mine in the House that refused to do so. I think it showed a clear contrast.
Yeah, let me push back a little bit on that because what do you get from it? There's no reward from it. The guy sponsored a coup last time. There was an insurrection 4 years ago, and he gets reelected. And now they're whitewashing what happened on January 6th. So, what's the upside here, Salud?
Well, I think the upside is just to demonstrate to the American people that he was wrong then. That whole process and insurrection and decertification attempt by the other side and those that believed in that, the big lie of the election, is not something we should stand for. And certainly, like I said, it was not a pleasant exercise and a vote that we had to go through, but you have to go through it. This is the United States of America, and we have a higher calling to our country and our democracy, and not, getting caught on those that tried to destroy it.
But now he's going to turn around. He's going to pardon all these people who were chasing you for your life 4 years ago, along with all of your colleagues, killing police officers, attacking police officers, so a number of whom died. And he's going to turn the whole thing into a national day of celebration.
It's sad and disheartening, and again demonstrates the downside of what this election resulted in. And I'm opposed to it. Obviously, the Constitution doesn't let us do otherwise. It's something that we have to accept. I'm going to fight it all the way through, fight his policies and extremism to the extent that I can. And, some things are just par for the course, as unfortunate as it is.
Yeah, it just strikes me that there's a funhouse mirror quality to all of this is going on. Another piece of it is President Elon Musk. who apparently is ordering around the Speaker of your House with the continuing resolution deal that he torpedoed and then was passed later. And then, as we were discussing before we went on, is now mentioning you by name among a number of Democrats who should be defeated for having voted against the bill last September in a tweet. I mean, what do you? Isn't this is not normal? Salute.
Absolutely. Well,
What
for
is
me,
your feeling about the non-normalcy of this?
well, keep in mind that my whole tenure here in Congress, I tell people, has not been normal as I have come to expect. I had 4 years of Trump when I first got here. I've been here before, 8 years ago, and impeachment, insurrection, a speaker debacle, you name it. I've been here, and now we have this train wreck here again. And all I can do is commit to working with my colleagues to stand up to all the extremism that he has pledged to employ here in the United States.
Yeah. And of course, you just don't have a lot of power when you're in the minority. And although the speaker only has the 217 to 215, he has a 2-vote majority, a 1-vote majority.
But Jerry, let me remind you of something. I was here before where my Republican colleagues had the trifecta: the White House, the Senate, and the House, and we prevailed to thwart his efforts, their efforts, should I say, to get rid of the Affordable Care Act under that scenario. So, as the American people stand up and advocate and push back against those extremist policies, and making sure that here in Congress, when there are a few individuals that are willing to stand up, we need to make sure we support those efforts to make sure that those extremist policies are thwarted or tempered.
All right. Let me just close on the Congress just completed, because it was, as I understand it, historically unproductive in terms of legislation that was passed. You got a few things done. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I got a number of things done. I got 6 bills that I either introduced or co-sponsored as the major lead of them to move forward. And since we only passed about 200 bills in Congress last year, one of the least productive Congresses in history, 2% of those bills were those bills that I either introduced or co-sponsored.
I'm going to call you 2%. 2%.
2%, not 1%, 2%. So, I did a lot. And, whether it's to address PFAS, chemical pollution that's impacting our water supplies that stem from PFAS foam being used by firefighters and helping them transition from those chemicals to less toxic chemicals was one of my bills. Another one is to help stand up housing opportunities and transparency and accountability for the housing available for our military personnel. Also, disrupt Fentanyl Trafficking Act, which helped us enhance our strategic efforts to stop fentanyl coming into our country at our borders. Also, to make sure that we are doing everything possible to safeguard the nuclear arsenal that we do have from cyber attacks. And also, I also moved forward a post office bill to rename the Santa Maria post office after former Mayor Larry Lavanino.
Yeah.
Those are just a few.
Yeah, you got a lot of coverage on that one here. What about the Shumash sanctuary?
Well, that was an effort I advocated for, but the reason I didn't mention it, and I'm really glad you mentioned it, is an effort that I played a big role in making sure it got over the finish line. It was a conceptual effort when I came to Congress, and I believe that my efforts, along with all the stakeholders that participated, the Chumash indigenous people and other stakeholders on the Central Coast, We were able to get that back on the list, extend it. Then we were able to move it forward through the process, the designation process, and it made it over the finish line. So that was a huge deal. The Chumash National Marine Sanctuary that got designated just a few months ago.
And what about President Biden has been doing some things just before he goes out of office, extending the offshore oil drilling.
My first bill in Congress 8 years ago was the California Clean Coast Act, which was to ban offshore drilling off of California. Then that expanded. The bill was later amended to expand the entire West Coast. And on November of this year, knowing that there was going to be a change in the administration, I wrote with a few of my colleagues to President Biden, and I asked him to use his authority to permanently ban offshore drilling off our western coastline, including other coastlines. And he did. He actually used his 12A authority, which of executive action that permanently bans offshore oil drilling from the Atlantic coast, the eastern Gulf coast, the West Coast, which includes all the western states, including California, and parts of Alaska as well. And this is an action, 12A action, that has never been undone. Trump tried to undo some of President Obama's 12A executive actions, and the courts did not allow him to do so. This is not one of those executive orders that he passes that can just easily be undone, as we have seen. So this is a big deal, and it's not easily undoable by the incoming administration.
Well, let me ask you this. As you know, there's a conflict going on. I'm not sure if it's at the state or the federal or county. It's at all three over this pipeline that ruptured at Refugio in 2015 and caused a big spill. Sable Oil is now trying to reopen it, get it repaired, and so on. There's a big fight about who the decision maker is, who the decision maker isn't. Does the president's ban, would that affect this project?
No, it would not. This is outside of that executive action.
And is there anything that you can do from where you're sitting to see that does not reopen?
Well, let me share with you the process that has entailed for the reopening of that pipeline or restarting of that pipeline. It was first with the local decision makers. Then it came to the realization that the state of California fire marshal had a role in making a determination to allow that to occur. The fire marshal did make a positive action allowing that to occur, but it's come now for final ratification to the federal government, to the transportation agency. Through PIMSA is the agency that has authority over that, for them to move forward with a final decision and determination to allow that to happen. In knowing that, now that it's in my court, I have been actively advocating to the Biden administration, to the Secretary of Transportation, Buttigieg, and to PIMSA to encourage them to take decisive action to negate that from happening. I'm doing my part at the federal level to try to make sure that that is the outcome.
But you only got about 2 weeks to do that, because clearly when Trump comes in, he's gonna do whatever needs to be done to reopen that.
And that could be the case, but I'm following the procedures and the opportunities I have at this point in time to impact that decision.
And there hasn't been a public hearing about this. The community hasn't had an opportunity to be heard on this, Salud.
Absolutely. And I think that would be part of the process through PIMSA. And that's why your observation is correct. there's limited time. So I'm not sure what the outcome will be, but I'm doing my best to try to impact that at this point in time.
All right. What's your level of confidence that you're going to get this stopped? More or
You
less
know,
than
you
50?
have to be an optimist if you're serving in Congress. So I will say I'm always at 100% optimism that things can and will happen.
All right. Let me ask you about this. And it's a weird house because of the narrow margin that the Republicans have. But Trump is now talking about having one gigantic bill to extend the debt limit and extend his previous tax cuts, make a bunch of spending cuts, and do a big immigration bill all in one. What's, you know, that's not common, as I understand it, to have such multiple subjects of a bill. And what's your perspective on that?
Well, it'll be chaos at its best as we know it. We saw how chaotic just the most basic procedures to install a new speaker was like a few days ago. And I think that will ensue. The Republicans have a very thin majority, slight majority in the House of Representatives. So they're going to have trouble moving anything forward with a divided House of Representatives majority. They're trying to look at the procedure known as reconciliation and whether it's best to do one bill or two bills. They're looking at to see what they might be able to move forward, whether it should be in one bill or two bills. They don't have a Nancy Pelosi that's skilled in bringing everyone together and finding the common ground. And there's a number of rules that have to be adhered to through reconciliation. It has to have some kind of financial framework by which they can move this forward. And it's called the Bird Rule, which is a constant assessment of what they're trying to do. And it has to pass that rule. I remember when Democrats were exploring passing the Build Back Better Act that eventually became the Inflation Reduction Act. And there was a lot of trials and tribulations about getting certain things in, and certain things could not be included. Certain immigration things could not be included. So there was an evolution of what could be included. At first, there's a tendency to throw the kitchen sink of things and wish lists that everybody wants. But at the end of the day, you're constantly being told that won't work, this won't work, that won't work. And it's a pretty long process as to what the outcome will be. And I think they're going to go through that. And I remember how challenging it was for Democrats. It's going to be challenging for them. And with the thin majority that they have, I think that they're going to be hard pressed to pass anything.
I assume that you're going to be playing defense a lot in this Congress, and certainly one issue where that's going to be the case, or likely to be the case, will be on immigration. Trump has promised these mass deportations, whether he does that or he doesn't do that. But he's said that he's going to punish states, i.e., California, that attempt to protect immigrations or the rule of law, even, if you will. What are you looking at in terms of what your role is going to be in all of this fight about immigration?
Well, I think, first of all, he says that he wants to deport over 12 million people. And the thing that catches everybody's attention is that he wants to deport certain criminals. And I think he's going to get no opposition from me or others when it comes to deporting criminals. That's not the issue. He wants to deport millions of people that are working in our economy to make it work in the agriculture sector, in the construction sector, hospitality sector. And we know what that would do. It would destroy our economy. And so you're going to see all those businesses speak out, if they haven't already started doing so, about what that will do to them. And the prices of food and groceries. You think they're expensive now? It would be huge if he succeeded in doing what he's doing. Not to mention, it's going to take billions, if not trillions of dollars to do what he wants to do. And Congress has the power of the purse. And when you consider that Democrats will no doubt play an active role in any negotiations that move forward, that's not possible. You can't do everything here in Congress through reconciliation. There's still the filibuster bill, the filibuster rule in the Senate. They have to achieve a 60 vote majority, which is not going to happen. So a lot of the things that he says he's going to do, he's not going to be able to do. I guarantee it. He will be able to do some and some damage in this regard. And again, there's a lot of things he won't be able to do.
So are you saying to our immigrant communities here in Santa Barbara not to worry?
No, I'm not saying that. We should all be worried. What I'm saying is that the final actions and the magnitude of what he pledged to do, I'm hopeful will not be as extreme not because he's going to change his mind, but because he can't do everything. But no doubt he will deport a number of people. The question is how much and how aggressive, and what are some of the obstacles that he faces. For instance, he says he wants to use the military. Well, there's rules and laws in place that don't allow him to use the military under certain circumstances against American citizens or in domestic instances. He's going to need billions and trillions of dollars. I'm here to tell you, he's not going to get that because you can only get so much through reconciliation. So at the end of the day, I think I want people to know that hopefully we can temper the extremism. I'm not telling them don't worry. I'm telling them, regrettably, we have to wait and see. This is going to be a fluid situation. And I think there's a lot of forces that are going to push back against Trump and his team about what impacts this will have on our economy and our communities. And the business sector is the one that's going to lead that charge. It would implode. Our economy would implode if he did what he said he was going to do.
Yeah. Over the last few weeks, I've spoken with your colleagues, Senator Limon and Assemblymember Hart and Supervisor Capps, about what local and state government can do. Have there been meetings of all of you all talking about mutual strategies?
There's been conversations that I've had with a few of them or their representatives, but I would say more of that needs to take place. And I no doubt will be hopefully bringing people together and continuing to have those discussions. But more needs to be done to explore and first identify what everybody is doing and what else we could do.
One of the sort of signature areas of the Biden administration was on climate, a lot of progress on climate and energy issues. How vulnerable are those things, do you think, to being changed by Trump?
Well, first of all, a good part of all that money that was passed has already been spent. And it's already been hitting the ground, and it has been already allocated or committed. And once you do that, you can't take it away. But there is a small amount that hasn't been obligated, should I say. And, surprisingly, there is, I believe, a letter of 17 or 18 Republicans that a few months ago, maybe 4 to 5, 6 months ago, wrote to the leadership, the Republican leadership, saying that they were not for getting rid of a number of things in the Inflation Reduction Act and all the tax credits, because they are benefiting, their districts are benefiting from these tax credits and these investments, whether it's the Chips and Science Act, whether it's tax credits for various manufacturing, Inflation Reduction Act, renewable energy. So I'm hopeful that there's a good amount of them that will step up, join Democrats in thwarting them trying to get rid of that small amount of unobligated funds. But it is a small amount compared to the large investments that have already hit the ground and are obligated.
All right. All right. Well, let's leave it there. What else are you looking to be doing this session other than, kind of trying to get through the snow and make your way through blizzards?
Well, first of all, working on the appropriations process, making sure that we move forward with less damage to programs that I believe are important for the Central Coast. We need to make sure that we save as much of those programs and funding as possible. We're going to be working on housing, trying to address housing costs, continuing to bring down the cost for groceries and all of those things that are important. There's the farm bill that we have to pass because we were not able to pass it in the last Congress, going to show us the chaos and dysfunction that happened in the last Congress. There's the Surface Reauthorization, Transportation Reauthorization Act that we have to move forward. There's a number of things that we have to do, including my reinitiating and sponsoring the bills that have not made it over the finish line, childcare bills, bills in a number of areas that go to enhancing the quality of life for Central Coast residents.
All right, very good. Well, Representative Carbajal, always the glass half full kind of guy, which I'm sorry, it doesn't work here. But
well, Jerry, to be in Congress, you have to be optimistic and hopeful that there will be a better day. And even when we're in the minority, I've been here before. And again, despite being in the minority last Congress, 6 of my bills that I sponsored or co-sponsored made it over the finish line. So I remain hopeful under the circumstances and will stand up to Donald Trump's extremism every day and speak out against it. And yet, if there's opportunities to work together to thwart and temper those ridiculous actions and extremism, I will also work on those. I'm not going to shy away from working with anyone and everyone who's willing to work with me to get the things done or temper the extremism that no doubt is coming.
You're not going to bail out the Republican speaker on continuing resolutions and spending bills, though, are you?
They're going to have to work with me and Democrats to make sure that our priorities withstand the process and that we deliver for the American people in the Central Coast.
All right. All right. Representative Carbajal, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon. Good luck during this session.
Thank you so much, Jerry. Appreciate you.